Hello, and welcome to Monsieur Balisong's Replicant maintenance tutorial. I know it's been 2 years, but I hold on to my promises. So this video is going to be a maintenance tutorial on the BRS Replicant. It's going to be first person, so hopefully it's going to be really obvious what you need to do. I'm going to be taking this apart, cleaning the screws, putting on Loctite, applicating the lubricant, and putting it back together. It's also going to double as a tutorial for how to install the OSP trainer. Let me try to get it into focus. OSP brand 440C USA trainer. For supplies, you're going to want isopropyl alcohol. The higher percentage, the better. Q-tips. Q-tips are amazing for cleaning butterfly knives. Just trust me with that. Loctite blue. This is going to be a Loctite tutorial. I might do a paracord Loctite tutorial in the future. Make sure you get blue. You don't want red, and no shit, you don't want super glue. Benchmade blue box. You don't need the Benchmade blue box. You just need Torx bits. And for the replicant, you need T10s and T8s. T10s are for the pivots, T8s are for everything else. A lubricant. My lubricant is Tough Glide. I've owned this for maybe 4 years. Still have a lot in it. It's amazing because of this pinpoint applicator. Lets you put it exactly where you want the lubricant to go. Something to cover your desk so you're not getting alcohol and Loctite all over everything. And a bunch of tissues so that you can wipe stuff off. This is a warning little thing I'm going to say to you guys. Make sure to separate your spacer screws. If it'll focus, make sure to separate your spacer screws from your Zen pin screws, because these are very different, and I did not know that at the beginning of the video, so I didn't tell you to do that. I'm telling you now, so please separate them and put them back where they belong. This has been a PSA. So the first step to taking apart a butterfly knife, get your Torx. For the replicant, we're going to be taking off the pivots first so that the knife itself, the blade, comes out. So to show you how the blue box works, you take out the Torx bit, and this is magnetized. Pops right in. And then also, this took me a while to figure this out. See this little ball bearing lets you push it right in. This is really self-explanatory. You just unscrew this. If the pivot is spinning with the screw, push up against it as hard as you can, so that you don't just have a spinning pivot. This part's really self-explanatory. Taking it apart is self-explanatory until you get to the spacers and the liners. So head them out a little bit. Put the screws somewhere that you know you won't forget. And this is where we're going to take out the alcohol. Fill the cap. Alright, so you see the cap has some alcohol in it. So we're going to set that right there. Throw the screws that you take out into the alcohol. Like this. Maybe every once in a while shake it a little bit. You can already see some of the dirt and grime is being taken away by the alcohol. That just makes sure that the old Loctite and dirt that's on the screws gets dissolved for the new set of Loctite. Pivots, these pivot cups right here, they're going to stay in there. So you need to get something to poke them out. I'll be using a T8. And push on the pivot cup. As you can see, it pushes out a little bit, but not all the way. So you have to do the rest yourself. Get your finger in there. Try your best to pull it out. Alright, that's one pivot cup out. See? Throw that into the alcohol as well, because that's full of Loctite. There we go. Finally got the pivot cup out with some difficulty. That can happen. If it's just like a little bit off center, it's going to not want to fall out. So now you have a butterfly knife with no pivot screws. In between these liners, there's little washers. extremely important you don't lose those. You lose those, you have to buy new ones. So slowly pull out the blade, just like this. Got one handle off. Alright, both handles are off now. So this is the blade. If you're going to be reusing this blade, you can clean out these bushings that are in there, but I'm not going to. So now we have washers in here too. Pull out the washers. There's 2 on each handle. That's 2 for this one. 2 for this one. Take your washers, put them into the alcohol. Everything that can be dirty is going to be thrown into the alcohol so it gets clean. And shake it. Be sure that you shake it. Like I was saying, I'm not going to be replacing this blade. I'm going to be changing it with this one. And as you can see, this one has bushings in it, and this one does not. So we are going to be taking the bushings out of this one and putting them into this one. Funny thing actually just happened. I didn't know that. I assumed that this was going to be coming with new bushings. So I just called OSP Services, and I talked to probably the guy who made these things, and he told me exactly how you need to pressure fit them. So you can push them out. You can use anything like tweezers to push them out. The cap to Tough Glide perfectly fits through. It catches the bushing but doesn't stop, so it pulls the bushing right out. It's perfect. So I am officially done with this blade. I'm gonna put it over there, and now I have 2 bushings that are waiting to be reinstalled, so I'll throw them into the alcohol. Shaking it up, maybe putting a little bit more in there because it's starting to be used up. Alcohol evaporates, so the level will slowly go down as you use it. And now with this blade, what he just told me, since I just called him, is that there's might be still a little bit of grit and stuff on the inside of these holes. So I'm going to recommend that you get a Q-tip. Ooh, get some alcohol on it. Nice and soaked up. Don't get it too soaked. And you're going to stick it into the pivot holes and kind of clean it. Clean the insides. As you can see, there definitely is some grit still in there. And that's going to prevent you from being able to easily put in the the bushings. So try to clean it out as best as you can. Their customer service is awesome. I called them and some guy answered. I could hear the machines going. And I was like, hey, could I get some help with this Balisong? And he's like, ooh, I'm a racing guy. So he gave it to the guy who actually made it, and he told me exactly what to do. So alcohol evaporates really quick. So after you've cleaned it out and dried it, I'm actually be using tweezers. Pull your bushings out. Ensure that they're dry. So I'm gonna get my first towel, paper towel, right here, as you can see. Dry out the bushings. Dry them out nice and quick. You don't really want much residue or liquid inside your blade because it could cause a whole slew of issues. So this part, he warned me, might be a little difficult. I'm gonna lube the outside of the bushing, like this. So there's some lube on the outside of the bushing. And then lube the inside of the bushing area. So now it's lubed. Take this. Try your best to just push it straight in. Look at that. It fit right in. Fits perfectly. This is machined really well. Thank you so much, OSP. I'm so happy that I can finally use my butterfly knife at college legally. So same goes for the other one. Lube up the outside. Lube up the inside. As you can see, it's all lubed up. Push it straight in. Spin it around a little bit, push it up and down. And as you can see, you have 2 bushings inside your new OSP trainer blade. And they spin very well. Maybe you have to work them in a little bit before they're perfect. So that's that. We now have bushings in our new blade. Now, we have to take apart the rest of the handles. So as you can see, you have 2 handles, kind of sitting there, not doing anything. This part can get complicated, so pay attention. We're going to be switching to a T8 size screw bit, Torx. So grab your T8. If you're using the blue box, pop it into the magnet. I'm actually not going to be using the box itself this time. You can close up your lube so that it doesn't evaporate and you don't waste it. We're going to start with the Zen pins. So Zen pins can be an issue because they're a double-sided screw. I forget what that's called, but it can be a pain in the ass because sometimes they can just spin on you. Oh, I guess we are putting it in the box. It's in really tight. Sometimes it can just spin on you, and sometimes if you turn it too much and it doesn't want to be turned, it can actually snap off into the pivot barrel, and you're kind of fucked. So be careful. If it really doesn't want to be turned out, get a hairdryer and try to warm up the bonding thing so that it doesn't bond anymore. Unscrew both. And be careful, because once they're both out, this little barrel spacer is going to be able to just pop out. Don't lose it. And you probably guessed it. Everything that we pull out, we're going to be throwing right into the alcohol. Oh, looks like it's a little stuck in there. Yep, there we go. Throwing both of these into the alcohol. And more alcohol. I'm going to do the same for this next blade. Right, second pair going in there. Shake it around. Try not to spill it like I just did, like an idiot. It's okay, alcohol doesn't stain whatever this plastic is. Okay, next part, titanium spacers. So now we're taking this apart. Be careful because this can plop out and whatever. Really nothing too dangerous to lose here. Still using the T8. The issue you can have here is that these, I think these are called sex bolts. The female side can just spin while you're trying to unscrew it, so you stick your finger up against it so that it doesn't spin. Again, if you're having a lot of issues and it just keeps spinning, heat it up with something like a hairdryer and it should help debond the glue. More alcohol. Yeah, the alcohol pile is going to be full of nuts and bolts. Just don't forget, it's hard to forget which ones are T8s and T10s. T10s are for the pivots, T8s are for everything else. And I'm pretty sure that the pivot screws are also, the spacer screws are also the barrel spacer screws, so you can use them interchangeably. So that's one Balisong part taken apart. As you can see, this is this. It's pretty dirty. Take off the spacer. Spacer can be taken out from the barrel spacers. Place it over here. We're going to be cleaning those with Q-tips. Take out the barrel spacers, and as you guessed it, throw them in the alcohol. But those barrel spacers are different. They're a little bit longer than the barrel spacers used here, and they're not double-sided. So we're going to be cleaning all of this. Okay, that's a clean, and that's dirty. Hopefully we can get that off. And now it's the same exact process for this. Just do exactly the same thing. I actually just had issues with unscrewing these. So what I did, I stuck a pen in here so that they were spaced, so that the titanium liners were spaced, and it applies pressure against the sex bolt, and you just unscrew it. So that's a little tip for you if you're having trouble pulling them out. And this is different. So on the bite handle, this is going to be here. That's for the latch. Mine obviously doesn't have a latch. So keep this off to the side. You don't really need to clean that unless it's really gunky. Slowly pull out your spacer. Place it over by... Actually, keep your handle separated. So I'm going to put my bite handle to the left, my safe handle to the right. I'm putting my little barrel spacers are being put into the alcohol. This little piece of titanium, I really don't understand what this is for. It's like a pocket clip replacement, I don't know. Okay, so we have a bite handle with its latch holder, and we have a safety handle. Now that this is all disassembled, get yourself a Q-tip. Put some alcohol on it. And this is just going to be the cleaning part. Each and every single one of these little screw holders has some goop in it from Loctite and lube. So just stick an alcohol soaked Q-tip in it and spin it around. It's dirty. Just clean right up. Use more elbows, fingers, right off. I'm gonna go through a lot of Q-tips doing this. Just a heads up. So hopefully you have a big pack. The pivot opening is probably gonna have the most goop, just because that's where you put all your lube. And Loctite's gonna eventually slowly make its way out. You might not be able to clean it perfect. You can just wipe the opposite side of the G10. You're not going to be seeing this side of the G10, but it's still nice to make sure that it's clean. Make sure there's no buildup so that the knife is unbalanced. So that is how you clean the G10. I'm going to go ahead and clean all of the other G10 handles, but I'm not going to record it because it's just the same thing over and over again. And I'll be back when we clean this handles. With the G10 scales thoroughly cleaned out, we're going to move on to the TI liners, the spacers, and the pocket clip. Like usual, get your Q-tip, wet it in some alcohol. This is a very easy part. You can see there's like little, just dirt all across it. Literally just wipe it all down. This is the easiest part. Turned it from a blue to a purple. And you can get a paper towel to wipe. Oil, canned oils, skin oils actually change the color of anodization. So if you have blue or purple anodization, it's going to fluctuate between a few colors. It's not going to stay one color. Be sure to clean where those washers were, because that can make, that's where the lubricant all sits, and that definitely makes some of the dirtiest spots on the liners. Yeah, there you go. That's how dirty just this single one was. Rinse and repeat 3 more times. I'll probably speed this up because you don't need to watch me do the same thing 4 times in a row. Okay, I've thoroughly cleaned all of the TI liners. We're gonna just quickly clean the spacers. It's the same exact process. Wet your Q-tip. Like I said, Q-tips are one of the most important parts for cleaning butterfly knives. Just really wipe off the surfaces. The spacers tend to not get too dirty. Again, remember to keep the handles separate so that you know the orientation. You don't want to accidentally put your safe handle, give that a latch, because I know that'll just be confusing to you when you're putting it back together. So the pocket clip side goes on the blade handle. Same with this tiny little bit that holds your latch. Might as well wash it too, just for the hell of it. And that's that. So, funnily enough, I actually have class right now. So I'm going to let my parts, I'm going to shake them a little bit, put some more alcohol in them. But I'm going to let these sit for about an hour. You don't have to let them sit for that long, but the longer the better. It just dissolves more dirt. So I'm going to be off to class letting these sit right here. And when I come back, I'm going to be putting this all back together. Putting in the lube and putting in the Loctite.
1 hour later.
So with this being my bite handle, this being my safe handle, we are going to be putting these back on. Basically, when your butterfly knife is closed, the Zen pins are going to be pointing away from the blade. So lay this down flat right here. Stick in this little, I'm going to call this a latch holder. Stick it in right there. Take your barrel spacer for your Zen pin. Place it inside there as well. Push it down as far as it'll go. The latch holder is always the biggest pain. Make sure that the holes are lined up. Here's a little tip. Take the spacers, put them in a little early. So line all the pieces up, push them through. Put the other side on. Now get a screw in there for the love of God. On to Loctiting. And we're going to be wanting to make sure that we have the same screws that we took out of the spacers. Definitely don't want that falling out. And so here I have 2 screws that I took directly out of the spacers last time. They're blackened. I don't know if that's how it is on a regular replicant or if this is like somebody modded it and used different color screws. So you just want to fill maybe 2 to 3 to 4 threads worth of Loctite and then drop it straight into the hole. Spin it a little bit. Maybe do it to the second one too, as you can see right there. Plop it into the second hole. Hold the opposite side of the spacer as you screw it in. Make sure it's nice and tight. It seems like that's as tight as I'm going to get it. Pretty pressure fit. Not getting that out. And now on to these Zen pins. So these are the Zen pins that I have. They're the more silver screws. Again, I don't know if that's how it is in a regular replicant. It's just how it happens to be in mine. Get yourself some Loctite on it, like I have here. Stick it into the spacer. And screw it in with your T8. The second screw. That is one handle completely finished. I'll do the other off camera. Alright, with both handles reassembled, you can screw back up the Loctite because we won't be using it for a second. Now we have to put the blade back. So, how I like to assemble my butterfly knife is have all the screw heads flat on the same side, and then you want your safe handle to be the handle that your latch isn't going to be on. So I'm going to choose to put it over here. But this is probably one of the most difficult parts. So we have to put the washers back on. So bring this out. Lubricate the washer area. Place the washer on each side. And then try to just slowly push it over. Just like that. Now with your blade barely in, take the pivot spacer. Just try to slowly push it in. With the pivot spacers just barely in the top, try to push them through the washer system. Let's do one at a time here. Try to push them through the washer so that they go through to the other side. Now time to put in the second washer. Loop the opposite side. Attempt to slip it in between the liner and the pivot. Make sure that there's enough clearance for it. If need to be poke it through a little bit with the razor. Now for the other side. Now that they're finally both in, it's the worst part of the whole of all of butterfly knife maintenance. Finally. You just take the pivot screws, you Loctite them, and then you screw them in, and that's it. You're done. So Loctite up the screw. It's your final screws, so just make sure they're right. And we're going to be switching to T10 for this. So make sure to get your T10 out. Get back in there, screw. Screw it in about as tight as you can and then back it out a tiny bit. Same goes with the next one. Get yourself some Loctite on it. Not too much though. Peek it in. Finish screwing it in all the way. Get a bit of a hard screw and then a little bit of back out. Check the handle swing on it. Check the play. The last thing you want to do is maybe put just a little bit more lube. Actually, don't put the lube in yet. That's that. You are finished. Now just don't use it for 24 hours and let the Loctite dry.